She promised to serve without asking anything. What he said broke her silence. She stood alone on the empty station platform, snow whipping around her heart, pounding as the train disappeared into the distance. Suddenly, a figure appeared through the storm. A cowboy on a black horse, calm eyes meeting hers. "Ma'am, you'll freeze," he said. He draped his coat over her trembling shoulders and lifted her onto his horse. "Why help me?" she whispered. "'Cause someone should have helped me once," he replied. They rode through the snow to a cabin lit by fire where warmth and tea awaited. By the fire they shared their hidden sorrows. "I was left too," he admitted softly. And as he stood guard at the door, she knew for the first time in a long while, "I'm safe here." That winter, the wind blew cold to the bone, and thick snow blanketed the forest in white. Clara shivered as she stepped into the small wooden cabin, each branch tapping against the window like a reminder of the loneliness outside. Inside, the flickering fire from the stove cast warmth across the wooden walls, while the rising steam from the tea carried a pleasant aroma and a rare sense of safety. Ethan helped Clara into a wooden chair, gently wrapping a thick blanket around her shoulders, his calm eyes full of concern. He stoked the fire once more, the crackling flames blending with the howling wind outside, then poured hot tea into a ceramic cup. Clara took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through her body, and for the first time in days, her heart felt at ease. In that quiet moment, amidst the scent of tea, the glow of the fire, and the sound of the wind outside, Clara realized something: she was safe. A safety that came not just from the fire or the cup of tea, but from the calm gaze and gentle presence of the man standing beside her. She began to trust, began to connect, and in doing so, opened the door to untold stories toward a winter that would change her life forever. Part 1. The Lonely Train Station. Snow fell thickly at the train station, each flake spinning in the wind, touching her face and chilling her to the bone. Clara stood alone on the deserted platform, shoulders, trembling hands clutching her worn, tattered suitcase. Every gust of wind, whistling through the window, cracks and over the canopy, seemed to remind her of utter loneliness. Before her stretched only a vast expanse of white, and the train that had just departed left behind a distant whistle echoing in the silent cold and harsh night. Clara felt her heart ache with each beat. The icy wind seeped into every muscle, but the loneliness was sharper than the freezing cold outside. She glanced around, hoping to see a figure, a familiar pair of eyes, but there was only emptiness. The soft crunch of footsteps on the hard-packed snow made her feel the emptiness even more, as if the whole world had turned its back on her. A sense of helplessness and sorrow flooded her, making her feel close to collapsing. In that moment, Clara recalled the town's cold words, "You don't belong here." A sense of injustice took hold of her mind, heavy like stones on her heart. She had lost her husband too soon, left alone in a life with no family, no protection. The lonely days and long nights with no one to ask after her resurfaced vividly. The fear of being forgotten, of being rejected, surged powerfully again. Every breath made her lips turn bluer, her hands tremble more, and tears formed but were held back by the harsh cold and pent-up despair. Suddenly, through the hazy white snow, a figure appeared. Ethan, a tall cowboy, rode atop a black Mustang, his silhouette standing out against the white storm. His calm eyes observed her, yet beneath them was warmth, a quiet gentleness. Clara lifted her head, her heart pounding. Someone was finally seeing her, eyes wide with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Was he like everyone else in town, cold and indifferent? Or would he be the one to rescue her from this bitter cold and utter loneliness? Ethan lowered his voice deep, yet strong enough for Clara to hear over the wind. "Ma'am, you'll freeze." Only a few words, but they pierced her heart, awakening a strange sensation. A tiny spark of hope flickered amid her deepest loneliness. Clara shivered, not just from the cold, but from the feeling that someone truly cared, someone who wouldn't turn away. For the first time in days, she felt she wasn't completely abandoned. Ethan stepped closer, bending gently to drape his thick leather jacket around her shoulders. A simple act yet full of care, an unspoken promise that she would be protected. Clara blinked, surprise staring at him speechless. He offered his hand, guiding her closer to the horse's saddle, each gesture slow and gentle, letting her feel safety for the first time. Clara climbed onto the saddle, trembling but trying to keep her balance. Ethan lifted her, his strong arms shielding her from the raging wind outside. Snow swirled around them, and the pale moonlight illuminated the two of them in the white night. Clara could not help but whisper, her voice shaking. "Why help me?" Ethan replied slowly, his voice deep and warm yet gentle. "'Cause someone should have helped me once." Those words were more than an explanation. They were a bridge between two lonely hearts, each carrying their own loss. Clara felt she was no longer alone. That moment was not only a physical rescue from the cold, but a spiritual one, opening the door to a new emotional journey where tragedy and curiosity walked alongside hope. They moved through the snowstorm together. Ethan led her through the snow-covered pine forests, the horse's hooves blending with the howling wind. Each step on the white snow emphasized the contrast between the cold outside world and the warmth he brought. Clara felt the protection, the reassuring presence that calmed her. At the small wooden cabin, the flickering fire awaited. Ethan helped her onto a chair, gently wrapping another thick blanket around her shoulders. He stoked the fire, poured hot tea into a ceramic cup, and steam filled the room. Clara took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through her body, and for the first time in days, her heart softened. The firelight danced across her face, reflecting fatigue, but also curiosity and hope. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the scent of tea, the glow of the fire, and the sound of the wind outside, Clara realized she was safe. Not just because of the fire or the cup of tea, but because of Ethan's calm gaze, gentle gestures, and presence. A sense of trust began to form, subtle yet profound, opening the door to untold stories, to a winter that would change her life. Clara closed her eyes slightly, letting the warmth seep through her, listening to the crackling fire, breathing deeply, feeling safety for the first time in many cold, lonely days. Outside, the blizzard still howled through the trees, but inside the cabin, everything was warm, peaceful, and filled with hope. Watching Clara, Ethan smiled softly, his eyes calm, yet shining with deep empathy. He knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but in this moment, amid the harsh winter loneliness and cold, they had found each other, two abandoned souls, now connected through quiet kindness and care. In that moment, The deserted train station and the blizzard outside seemed to vanish from Clara's memory. Instead, she saw the warm fire, inhaled the aroma of hot tea, and felt Ethan's steady presence beside her. Within her, curiosity and hope began to bloom. Could this winter truly change her life? Could she find safety, love, and family she once thought lost forever? With each passing moment, Clara felt a fragile but certain connection with Ethan. No more loneliness, no more fear or despair. Only warmth, trust, and the beginning of a new journey. Part 2. A Helping Hand. The snow continued to fall, thickly spinning in the stormy wind, covering everything around in white. The blizzard was not only bone-chilling, but also muffled every sound, making the space between Clara and Ethan feel completely detached from the outside world. On the horse's back, Clara shivered. Shoulders hunched, hands clutching Ethan's thick coat, trying to find a trace of warmth amid the freezing cold. The snow blanketed the ground, each flake kicked up by the horse's hooves, creating a misty white haze. Yet for Clara, the most important thing was the strong hand supporting her and Ethan's calm gaze, full of safety and trust. Ethan draped another layer over Clara, ensuring she wasn't freezing to the bone. He bent low to lift her onto the saddle, every movement careful, deliberate, yet powerful. Each step of the horse underscored the protection he offered, making her feel that in this harsh blizzard, she was no longer alone. Clara lightly squeezed his sleeve, closing her eyes briefly, feeling the warmth radiating from his body. Her heart raced not only from the cold, but from the sense of security she felt for the first time after months of loneliness. She opened her eyes and saw Ethan leaning slightly forward, his calm gaze carrying concern. The wind still whistled through the pine branches, but he stood firm like a pillar in the storm. Clara realized that his gentleness was not in words, but in action, shielding her from the blizzard, protecting her from the coldness of the world. Moonlight filtered through the snow, casting a glow on Ethan's serious yet warm face, making her feel trust like never before. "Why help me?" she whispered, her voice trembling with the wind. Ethan looked straight into her eyes, his deep, slow voice steady. "'Cause someone should have helped me once." The simple answer, brief as it was, carried profound weight, calming Clara's heart. She realized her loneliness was not unique. Someone had felt abandoned before and was now returning to her the care and safety she needed. This moment was not just a rescue from the cold outside, but a spiritual salvation, a pivotal turning point in her life. Throughout the journey, the snow covered everything in white, yet Ethan never let go of her. He held her, securely adjusting their weight, so both remained balanced on the saddle. Clara felt each steady breath he took, the certainty in every movement, creating a sense of complete trust. Each thump of the horse's hooves against the snow seemed to underline one truth. Here amid the blizzard, she was protected, shielded. Ethan also kept his eyes on their surroundings. His calm gaze occasionally flicked toward broken branches or slick ice patches, ensuring no danger approached. Clara realized he was not only guiding her to safety, but using his alertness and strength to prevent potential threats. His presence made her feel secure, like being wrapped in a warm blanket amid the freezing cold. In the heart of the blizzard, Clara leaned slightly against him, eyes following the snowflakes spiraling in the moonlight. Each flake accentuated the stillness, and every passing moment reinforced the protection and safety she had never known. Trust began to form slowly but surely. Clara realized that this sense of security came not just from Ethan's physical strength, but from his quiet heart and care. During the storm, Ethan spoke little. His actions conveyed that she could trust him. Each coat, drape each sure step of the horse, each calm glance sent a message she did not face this cold, indifferent world alone. Clara began to sense the difference. This was not feigned concern, but genuine care from a heart that had known similar loneliness. She recalled the cold, abandoned days with no family by her side. But now, on the horse, holding tightly to Ethan, she felt warmth spreading through her, accompanied by a strange sense of trust and safety. All the fragments of loneliness seemed to be slowly mended thanks to the hand and heart of the man beside her. Occasionally, a stronger gust blew, covering them with white snow, yet Ethan never let go. He adjusted his hold, lifting her slightly to shield her from the wind, making Clara feel complete protection. Her eyes looked at him, a mixture of surprise and gratitude beginning to form a silent but firm connection. After a long ride, they arrived at a small wooden cabin. Warm firelight spilled through the window, inviting them into shelter. Ethan gently lifted Clara off the horse, seated her in a chair, and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. He stoked the fire to brighten the cabin and poured hot tea, the steam filling the air with warmth. Clara took a sip, feeling the heat spread through her body, her heart softening for the first time after many cold, lonely days. In that quiet moment by the fire with hot tea, Clara realized that the safety she felt came not only from material things, warm clothes, fire, tea, but from Ethan's gaze and actions, from his gentle heart and the trust he offered. She began to trust, began to open her heart, and in doing so, opened the door to untold stories, to a relationship born from kindness, protection, and a sense of security. Ethan stood by the doorway, watching the storm outside. Despite the heavy snowfall, he knew that in this moment, Clara no longer had to fear. The safety, trust, and warmth he provided erased in part the harsh months of loneliness she had endured. Clara, sitting by the fire, watched Ethan, feeling each steady breath, sensing his strength, yet gentleness, and gradually forming the belief that she would no longer be left alone. Outside, the blizzard, the whistling wind, and the whiteness faded compared to the warmth, trust, and safety that the cabin and Ethan provided. Clara exhaled softly, a gentle smile appearing after many shivering days. Her heart, still a little cautious, was learning to open, beginning to embrace hope and new connection. In this moment, amid the western blizzard, amid cold and loneliness, she and Ethan had found each other, not only a physical rescue, but a spiritual salvation, laying the foundation for the chapters yet to come. Part 3: The Warm House. After a long journey through the blizzard, Ethan opened the door of the small wooden cabin, and the firelight from the stove flickered across Clara's weary yet tense face. Outside, the snow continued to fall in thick sheets, wind whistling through window cracks and roof edges, emphasizing the cold and harshness of the west. But inside the cabin, the space was warm, the dancing flames forming a gentle circle around them, while the scent of burning wood and hot tea filled the air, calming Clara's mind as if pulling her away from the wilderness and loneliness outside. Ethan gently helped Clara into a chair, wrapping another thick blanket around her shoulders. His movements were slow, but decisive, as if conveying the message, "Here you are safe." Clara exhaled softly, pressing her hand against the blanket, feeling the warmth radiating from his body, from the fire, and from the space around her. Her eyes reflected both fatigue and curiosity, the firelight softening her face, revealing both her vulnerability and the hope she had never known. Ethan stoked the fire once more, the crackling flames blending with the wind outside, creating a sound both warm and serene. He poured hot tea into 2 ceramic cups, steam rising and carrying a comforting aroma that made Clara's entire body relax. She took a sip, warmth spreading through her throat, chasing away the chill that had pierced her bones from the train station to here. In that moment, the cabin felt like a refuge from the world, a place where she could breathe deeply and feel at peace. While Clara held her tea, Ethan prepared a simple meal, bread, cheese, and a few slices of jerky. Every movement of his was deliberate and careful, creating a sense of absolute safety for her. Clara watched, noticing every small gesture, every detail, from how he arranged the food and cups to how he sat beside her, always keeping his gaze on her. Each detail conveyed an unspoken message. You are not alone. You are protected. She smiled faintly, warmth spreading from his actions, from his gaze, and from the presence of Ethan. For the first time in many days, she felt gentleness and healing, not through words, but through actions, through the atmosphere, and through the presence of this quiet yet strong man. Ethan sat across from her, gently adjusting the blanket around her shoulders, then looked into her eyes, his voice low and warm. Sip slow. The storm outside is fierce. Clara took another sip of tea, feeling the warmth spread through her. She could feel the gentleness and genuine care in every gesture of his. There was no more worry or fear, only quiet peace, as if the harshness outside no longer affected her. In this moment, Clara realized that trust and safety were not merely material. They came from feeling cared for and protected by a compassionate heart. Ethan spoke little, but his eyes observed her every small reaction. Each glance registered her fear, fatigue, and even the fleeting moments of softness reflected in her eyes. Slowly, Clara's heart began to open, trust forming gently yet profoundly. She realized that in this harsh world, he was the one bringing the tenderness and healing she had thought lost forever. By the fire, Ethan shared stories of long days on the prairie, the hardships he had faced herding cattle and living in the harsh West. Clara listened occasionally, sharing her worries, losses, and loneliness. They shared each other's pain. Each small story broke down the distance between them and created a subtle connection. Every word, every gesture sent a wave of healing through Clara's heart, making her feel warmth and safety for the first time in months. The wind still howled outside the cabin, but inside, time seemed to slow. The fire flickered, tea steam rose, and the simple meal carried meaning, creating a peaceful space where Clara could forget the storm beyond the walls. She felt as if time had stopped, leaving only the present moment where tenderness and healing enveloped her soul. Clara looked at Ethan, her eyes warm but still cautious, realizing that amid the cold and loneliness of winter, she had found a true refuge. Not just the cabin, not just the warm fire or hot tea, but Ethan's hand, his gaze, and his heart, providing safety and trust. In this moment, Clara knew she had embarked on a new journey, one where tragedy could be soothed and her heart could open to hope. During dinner, they continued to converse, sometimes in silence, yet fully aware of each other's presence. Ethan smiled softly when Clara shared small stories of the town and her past life, his gaze softening, showing he felt the connection as well. Clara smiled, feeling her heart lighter than ever. Outside, the snow still fell. The storm still raged, but the cabin had become a safe space where all of Clara's worries, fears, and loneliness were soothed. Ethan stood and walked to the stove, adjusting the fire to ensure the room remained warm. Clara watched, realizing he cared not only for her, but for the environment around them, every small detail ensuring complete safety. In that moment, amidst the flickering fire and the wind outside, Clara understood something vital. Healing did not come from flowery words, but from actions, presence, and sincere kindness. She felt relief, trust, and a vague but real hope rising within her. This winter might truly change her life forever. The outside world remained harsh, but inside the cabin, everything was warm, filled with tenderness and healing. Clara leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, sensing the warmth of the fire, the scent of tea, and Ethan's steady breathing beside her. She realized she was no longer afraid, no longer lonely. Instead, there was safety, trust, and hope, emotions she had thought lost forever. Looking at Clara, Ethan smiled softly, his gaze calm yet full of empathy. He knew the journey ahead would still hold many challenges. But in this moment, amid the harsh winter, amid loneliness and cold, they had found each other. It was not only a physical rescue, but a spiritual one, laying the foundation for a relationship gradually blossoming, gentle yet profound, opening a new chapter in their story. Part 4. Wounds of the Past. Beside the crackling fire in the wooden cabin, the flickering light played across Clara and Ethan's faces, creating a space both warm and serene, as if everything outside had paused. The wind howled through the windows, mingling with the popping of the fire, forming a sound both comforting and a reminder of the harshness of the West. Clara sat across from Ethan, still holding the blanket around her shoulders. Her eyes showed fatigue, yet within them was curiosity and a hint of hesitation as she prepared to open up about her past. She took a deep breath to steady the tremor in her voice. It had been a long time since she had the chance to speak the feelings she had carried inside. Clara began recounting the days after losing her husband, when she had been left alone in an unfamiliar town, looked upon with scorn and derision. Every detail she shared was full of pain. The nights she spent in the empty cabin, the days she was rejected while trying to find work or assistance, the feeling of abandonment and hopelessness. Her voice trembled. Her eyes blurred with tears as she recalled those tragic moments. Ethan listened quietly, his contemplative gaze on her. He did not interrupt or judge. He simply observed and felt the pain Clara was sharing. Each story, each moment of suffering she revealed, seemed to fill the cabin with a profound silence, leaving only the crackling fire. Within Ethan, similar memories arose: losses, moments he had felt abandoned, and the persistent loneliness that had followed him for years. When Clara recounted the moment she had been left at the train station, tears welled in her eyes. She exhaled softly, a mixture of relief and sorrow. Ethan placed his hand on the table, looking at her with deep empathy. He recognized that the pain she had endured mirrored what he had once felt. Slowly, He spoke, his voice low and warm, imbued with sincerity. I was left too. Those words echoed in the warm cabin, mingling with the crackling fire, forming a bridge between two people who had once been lonely and wounded. Clara looked at Ethan, eyes wide, a mix of surprise and emotion. She realized that empathy was not only expressed in words, but also in understanding, in gaze, in gesture, and in the presence of someone who truly listened. Ethan shared his past, recounting the days he had spent herding cattle alone, facing storms, solitude, and the losses he had endured. The moments he had been left alone on the prairie, the losses of family and loved ones that made the world feel cruel. His voice was calm, but not sorrowful, recounting events that had passed. Yet his eyes carried gentleness, a heart that had once been broken, now finding connection with Clara. Clara listened, feeling her own pain reflected in his, and a sense of relief spread through her. She no longer felt alone. This sharing of pain, this acknowledgement of loss, created a deep connection, allowing both of them to feel that they were no longer facing the harsh world alone. Time passed slowly in that moment. Each breath, each glance, each crackle of the fire became part of the story, part of the emotion, helping to heal the wounds in Clara's and Ethan's hearts. Clara realized that pain no longer felt like a burden when shared, and empathy could turn tragedy into strength. As she listened to Ethan, Clara leaned slightly back in her chair, clutching the blanket. She felt warmth, not only from the fire tea or coat, but also from Ethan's presence and heart, a man who had known loss and now wanted to share healing with her. She began to open her heart, sensing safety, trust, and empathy spreading through her body. Ethan continued to recount moments when he had felt abandoned, but also spoke of how he had found strength in his solitude, in facing challenges alone, and in the resilience of his heart. Clara listened, her eyes softening, a faint smile appearing on her lips. She realized that although tragedy had once brought her to her knees, now through Ethan, she could see a path forward, a gentle light guiding her spirit. They shared each small story, from personal losses to joys missed. This moment lingered, creating a subtle yet profound emotional wave, healing old wounds and opening the possibility to trust, to open up to another person. Clara began to realize that empathy from another could be more powerful than any material comfort, softening and tenderizing her heart. Ethan watched Clara, noticing her slight smile after tears, and in his eyes, gentleness mixed with determination appeared. He knew that sincere empathy would be the first step toward a deeper connection, a healing not just for Clara, but also for himself. The flickering fire, rising tea steam, and blizzard outside the cabin faded into the background, leaving only the two of them facing each other, sharing pain and discovering empathy. Clara looked at Ethan, her eyes glistening, no longer fearful, but filled with relief and spiritual connection. She understood that amid the harsh West, amid tragedy and loneliness, they had found each other, finding comfort and empathy she had once thought lost forever. Throughout the night by the warm fire, they continued to talk, sometimes in silence, yet sensing each other's presence. This moment extended gentle yet profound, serving as a balm for old wounds, opening the way to trust, openness, and new hope. Outside, snow still fell, wind still howled, But inside the cabin, the space was warm, full of empathy and tenderness, where tragedy was slowly soothed and once wounded hearts found each other. Clara and Ethan were no longer alone. They had entered a journey of healing, where each story, each glance, each gesture carried deep meaning. In that fire-lit moment, Clara realized that shared pain could become strength, and empathy could transform tragedy into a healing experience. Ethan looked at her, his gaze calm, yet full of gentleness, and within both of them, a new hope began to blossom. The hope that this winter, amid the harsh blizzard, they had found healing and the spiritual connection they had longed for. Part 5. The Children. The next morning, snow still blanketed the forest and fields, but the cabin exuded a completely different atmosphere, warm, peaceful, and full of hope. Ethan stood at the cabin door, watching each snowflake fall, his gaze calm yet gentle. Inside, Clara sat by the fire, her eyes glistening, still bearing traces of lonely nights and the sorrowful stories of the previous evening, but now softened. This moment marked a shift in emotion, from tragedy and loneliness to warmth and hope. The sound of light footsteps outside caught their attention. Clara looked up, and in the soft morning light she saw two small figures appearing through the snow. Little Annie and Sam Orphan's Ethan had met in the town. They wore thick sweaters, scarves wrapped around their necks, eyes bright but still cautious. Clara immediately sensed the hesitancy in their eyes, curious glances but tentative. Ethan bent down his voice, warm. "Morning, Annie." "Morning, Sam. Come inside, it's warm." The children glanced at each other, then took small steps forward, hands tightly clasped as if for courage. Clara stood extending her hand with a gentle smile, saying, "Don't be afraid. It's safe here. Ethan won't let you get cold." The first encounter was timid, yet brimming with hope. Ethan guided the children into the cabin, where the fire flickered, and the scent of burning wood and hot tea filled the air. Clara handed them small cups of hot tea, while Ethan prepared some slices of bread and cheese, placing them on the table. The simple meal, imbued with care, made the cabin warm and filled with familial love. Little Annie looked at Clara, eyes bright yet cautious, and whispered, "Are you cold?" Clara smiled gently. "Not at all. Thanks to Ethan and the warm fire, we're all safe." Sam sat by the fire hands, cupping his tea, inhaling deeply, eyes lighting up as warmth spread through his body. He felt safety and gentleness, something both children had long lacked. In this moment, Clara realized that the presence of the children created a small family where love, care, and hope gradually filled the gaps in her heart. Ethan sat beside them, observing every small reaction from Clara and the children. He shared a few stories of long days on the prairie adventures, across the fields, and the times he faced blizzards. Clara smiled softly, while Annie and Sam listened intently, eyes bright, the cabin filled with laughter and simple joy. The atmosphere grew light and warm, and Clara felt the emotional wounds of her past beginning to ease. She began conversing with Annie and Sam, asking about their recent days, the hardships they had faced, but always letting them tell their stories at their own pace, unhurried and free. Each small story from the children made Clara feel connection sharing and the budding warmth of family. Ethan watched Clara calm yet warm. He knew that these children, together with Clara, would form a found family, a family finding each other amidst the harsh West. Clara realized that despite past losses and loneliness in this simple moment by the fire, she had found hope and warmth, things she had thought lost forever. After chatting for a while, little Annie smiled faintly and ran to hug Clara. Sam moved forward, taking Ethan's hand. In that moment, the connection between the four formed a gentle circle where love, trust, and mutual protection became the invisible thread linking them. Clara felt warmth from the children, and Ethan, her heart softening, and for the first time in many long days, she truly felt a family, a place to belong. Ethan watched, smiling, softly satisfied, as he saw Clara bonding with the children. He knew that these simple moments were the foundation for building a home in the harsh West. Clara sat among them, smiling gently, warmth spreading through her body, subtle yet profound, as if her old wounds were slowly healing. Together, they prepared a simple breakfast, bread, cheese, and hot tea. Ethan and Clara carefully served each child, making them feel loved and protected. Annie and Sam ate happily, interspersed with small laughs, filling the cabin with life and energy. Clara looked at Ethan, her eyes reflecting gratitude and trust. In this moment, hope and warmth spread, overcoming the cold outside and all past tragedies. The small stories, laughter, flickering fire aroma of tea and bread created a space for emotional healing where each person, from Clara to Ethan and the two children, found connection, trust, and love. Clara realized that even in the harsh West, even amid fierce blizzards, they had created a small family where hope, love, and mutual protection were ever present. Little Annie and Sam began sharing small, joyful stories about snow games and keepsakes they carried. Clara laughed. Ethan nodded along with the rhythm of the story, eyes filled with affection. The cabin was full of joy, warmth, and spiritual connection. In this moment, Clara understood that family was not only blood-related, but also those who come together to create warmth and hope. As moonlight streamed through the window, shining on the white snow outside, Clara looked around the cabin and saw four people, four once wounded hearts, now found each other. Ethan placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, his gaze calm yet gentle, whispering, "We'll be all right. Together." Clara smiled, eyes shining, holding Annie and Sam's hands, feeling warmth spread through her. In that moment, she knew hope had returned, and this small family would be a place to heal old wounds, fostering trust and safety she had long sought. By the fire, their laughter, warmth, and gazes, Ethan, Clara, Annie, and Sam created a gentle, hopeful scene. Though the blizzard still raged outside, inside was a different world where tragedy was momentarily subdued and hope and warmth flourished, allowing each person to find connection, trust, and genuine love. Part 6. Conflict in Town. A new day began, the snow falling more sparsely, but still blanketing the roads leading into the small town. Ethan led Clara, along with little Annie and Sam, into town to purchase food and supplies for the cabin. Outside, the air was still cold and harsh, but the morning light and snow-covered rooftops brought a hint of warmth. Clara held the children's hands, her heart racing both from the cold and from anxiety about the people outside, those who had once abandoned her, who had looked at her with disdain. After only a few steps, Sheriff Dalton appeared. He was tall, dressed in a black uniform, eyes sharp and stern. His rigid posture and strong beard created a presence that immediately pressed on the group. Annie and Sam pressed close to Ethan, eyes wide with worry and fear. Clara drew a deep breath, trying to remain calm, though her heart pounded. Sheriff Dalton spoke first, his voice deep but cold. "Clara, you don't belong here. The town cannot allow you to stay like this." Clara stepped back slightly, trying to steady her voice. "I'm just here to buy food. I'll leave right away." Ethan stepped forward, calm yet resolute. "She's here because of me. I will ensure she is safe." Sheriff Dalton furrowed his brow, his tone sharpening. "This is not your personal matter. The law must be respected. She cannot remain in this town, and I will not overlook it." Tension rose. Clara looked at Ethan, anxiety in her eyes, but his calm gaze offered some comfort. Ethan remained silent, yet his posture and unwavering stance sent a clear message he would not let her be pushed out, regardless of the strict law. Annie and Sam pressed against Ethan's legs, eyes wide with tension, yet seeking safety in him. Clara held his hand tightly, feeling the solidity and protection in his presence. Though Sheriff Dalton's gaze remained stern, Clara began to realize she was no longer alone, and Ethan would stand for her. Sheriff Dalton stepped closer, voice firm. "I do not wish to cause trouble, but the law is the law. If you choose to side with her, know that the town will not forgive it." Ethan responded calm, yet unwavering. "She's not going anywhere. If the law here does not protect people like her, I will." Clara felt the strength in his words. Once again, her heart softened. Despite the pressure and threat of expulsion, Ethan's gaze and actions made her realize someone would stand by her, and she did not need to face fear alone. Sheriff Dalton looked Ethan in the eye, sharp yet cautious. He realized Ethan was not easily swayed. The tension in the air eased slightly, yet still lingered like a taut line between rigid law and Ethan's protection. Clara took a deep breath, watching Sheriff Dalton, then glanced at Ethan. She felt the warmth and steadiness he provided, knowing that, despite the harshness of the town, she had shelter and a protector. Annie and Sam glanced around, seemingly recognizing this too. Their fear lessened, and trust in the cabin in Ethan and in his protection began to grow. Sheriff Dalton, seeing the determination in Ethan's eyes and the connection between the group, furrowed his brow and paused. The atmosphere seemed to hold its breath, leaving only the wind and snow underfoot. Clara stood between two forces: town pressure and Ethan's protection, feeling anxiety mixed with hope. But for the first time, she knew she was not completely powerless. Ethan stepped forward, placing a hand gently on Clara's shoulder, his gaze calm yet firm. "Don't worry. I won't let anyone harm you. We'll go home." Clara felt safety flood her heart, like a layer of armor shielding her from the pressure of Sheriff Dalton. Annie and Sam looked at Ethan, eyes brightening, seemingly understanding that this man was their only support, not just for Clara, but for themselves. Sheriff Dalton inhaled deeply, furrowed his brow, and then turned away, leaving a tense silence behind. His gaze still followed the group, but he no longer pressed directly. Clara exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and lingering concern. Yet she knew Ethan would protect her, and that was enough for her to trust in the future. On the way back to the cabin, the snow fell lightly, and morning sunlight filtered through the pine trees, casting a warm glow on the white landscape. Clara clutched Ethan's coat, trust and safety spreading through her. Annie and Sam ran and played nearby, their laughter mingling with footsteps in the snow, dissipating the tension they had just faced in town. The atmosphere suddenly felt warm hope radiating in every moment. Upon returning to the cabin, Clara realized that the conflict in town, though stressful and tense, had taught her something amid tragedy and pressure. There is still a place to find protection, trust, and hope. The cabin, the fire, Ethan, and the children were that place. This moment marked Ethan's steadfastness and the budding trust within Clara, opening the next chapter filled with hope and love. Part 7. Ethan's Resolve. After returning to the cabin from town, the atmosphere inside still held the tension of the recent encounter. Ethan closed the door securely, his gaze calm yet profound as he looked at Clara, Annie, and Sam. His heart was still heavy with the pressure from the town, from Sheriff Dalton, and the rigid townsfolk, yet alongside it was an unwavering determination not to let anyone harm those he cared about. The cabin was warm, the fire crackling, but in Ethan's eyes burned resolve and honor. Clara stood nearby, worry evident in her gaze. She felt the weight of the situation. The town did not accept her, and the pressure of law and judgmental eyes remained. But when she looked at Ethan, she realized one clear truth: this man would not falter. His calm gaze, steady stance, and decisive movements conveyed that no force could dismantle the protection he offered her. Ethan stepped to the doorway, looking out over the snow-covered prairie, where the morning light pierced the thin mist, creating a scene both majestic and harsh. He inhaled deeply, feeling the sharp cold, but also sensing the life around him. His heart swelled with a sense of responsibility and honor. He knew that abandoning Clara would not only cause personal pain, but also betray the principles he had always held, protecting the vulnerable, upholding justice, and preserving goodness in this unforgiving West. He turned back to Clara, gaze gentle yet stern. "You're not going anywhere. I will protect you no matter what happens." Clara felt the strength in his words. It was more than a promise. It was a profound resolve embodying his spirit of honor. She looked at him, eyes full of trust, and for the first time in many days, her anxiety and unease gave way to peace. Annie and Sam stood close, holding Clara's hand, their eyes bright, understanding that they were protected and that this place, the cabin, and Ethan was truly safe. Ethan began preparing for what lay ahead. He checked his weapons, organized safe spots, and surveyed every door and window. Each action was deliberate and steady, deliberate, yet imbued with the weight of determination to protect Clara and the children from any potential threat from the town. Clara watched, feeling her heart soften, realizing that Ethan's resolve was not mere words, but actions capable of keeping them safe at all times. While the cabin remained quiet, Ethan pulled Clara outside, walking together across the snow-covered prairie to inspect the perimeter. The cold wind cut through their clothes, yet he stood firm, a pillar against the cold and any danger. Clara followed, holding his hand tightly, feeling the stability and protection. The two children walked behind their small footprints, pressed into the snow, forming an image of a small family confronting the harshness together. Ethan looked toward the edge of town, where Sheriff Dalton and the townsfolk lived. His gaze was stern, clearly marking a boundary. Anyone wishing to harm Clara would have to get past him first. He turned to Clara, voice low but resolute. "I won't leave you alone. Whatever happens out there, I will stand to protect you and the children." Clara felt the strength and determination in his words. Once again, she realized that Ethan protected her, not only with his strength, but with honor, spirit, and goodness. His gaze, his firm stance in the snowy landscape, made her feel completely safe. The two children looked at Ethan, eyes shining, as if realizing they were no longer alone. Annie and Sam began running across the prairie, their laughter echoing in the snowy expanse, bringing warmth and hope. Clara stood among them, holding Ethan's hand, feeling stability, and for the first time in many days, her heart fully relaxed. Ethan led the group back to the cabin, his eyes always vigilant, yet his heart filled with resolve. He knew challenges still lay ahead, but his honor and responsibility were to protect those he loved. Clara felt the steadiness emanating from him, trust and safety spreading through her, and for the first time she realized she could truly rely on someone. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled, the scent of burning wood and hot tea filling the air. Ethan sat beside Clara, gaze stern yet gentle. "We'll stay here together. No one will harm the children." Clara looked at him, a faint smile on her lips, eyes glistening. In that moment, she felt Ethan's determination, honor, and strength, realizing that any difficulties from the town or other dangers could not shake the protection he offered her. Annie and Sam played joyfully, their laughter mingling with the fire's crackle, creating an atmosphere of warmth, hope, and peace. In Clara's mind, all the tension and anxiety from town seemed to vanish. She realized that no matter how harsh the outside world, no matter how rigid the laws or prejudices, Ethan's determination, honor, and goodness had created a true refuge. It was not just the cabin or the prairie, but a sanctuary of safety, trust, and emotional security she could rely on. Ethan stood by the doorway, eyes scanning the snow-covered prairie, hand resting carefully on his gun, but without tension. His presence brought absolute safety-making. Clara, Annie, and Sam feel that they were no longer alone, even with blizzards and challenges looming beyond. In that moment, amidst the white snow, the cabin's warm light, and the crackling fire, Clara realized that honor, resolve, and goodness were real strength, capable of protecting the vulnerable and healing past wounds. Ethan protected her not only with muscle, but with steadfast spirit and integrity, calming her heart and filling it with hope. Looking at Clara, Ethan's calm yet profound gaze said it all. He would never abandon her, no matter the difficulty, law, or prejudice. In this peaceful moment, Clara knew that a harsh winter had passed, but thanks to him, she had found safety, honor, and hope. By the crackling fire, gentle light, and the children's laughter echoing in the cabin, a warm, hopeful, and peaceful scene emerged. Ethan stood by the doorway, ready to face any challenge, determined to protect those he loved. And Clara knew they had begun a new journey, a journey of trust, love, and honor in the unforgiving West. Part 8. The Promise of Service. Dawn broke over the farm, the first rays of sunlight piercing through the morning mist over the fields, bathing the area in soft, warm light. The snow had begun to melt, revealing patches of green grass, still wet with dew. Ethan led Clara along with Annie and Sam out of the cabin so they could breathe in the fresh air. and start a new day. Clara's heart swelled with mixed emotions, excitement and concern for the challenges ahead, and a profound sense of safety and steadiness from Ethan. She looked around the farm. The wooden fences, horse stables, and wide open fields, all shrouded in a thin layer of mist. The dawn's glow calmed her, as if all past tragedies and pressures from town had melted away, leaving room for a new beginning. Ethan stood beside her eyes, scanning the farm, his posture serious yet full of determination. Clara realized that because of him, this place was no longer just land and wood. It was a true home she could rely on. Clara took a deep breath, watching Ethan, and with courage new found in the morning light, she said, "I promise I'll help. I don't ask for anything. I just want to contribute to this home." Ethan turned his eyes, lighting up with surprise and warmth. He stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder, his voice deep and warm. "No need to promise. I already knew you would stay for us. But hearing you say it makes me trust even more." Annie and Sam ran around, their laughter echoing across the fields, hooves and wind mingling with the sunrise, creating a scene full of hope and life. Clara watched them, eyes shining with joy and tenderness, realizing that her promise was not only to Ethan, but also to the children, to the home they were building together. She began helping with farm chores, feeding the horses, checking the fences, gathering tools left outside. Ethan observed occasionally, guiding her with small instructions, but mostly letting her act independently so she could feel true responsibility and commitment. Clara focused each action meaningful. This was how she kept her promise, showing trust and connection to Ethan and their new home. Ethan stood nearby, observing her gaze, calm yet gentle. He recognized her diligence and determination in every gesture, and it reinforced his trust that she was an indispensable part of their small family. Annie and Sam ran around, helping in little ways, laughter mingling with footsteps, creating a warm, hopeful atmosphere. Clara paused, looking at Ethan, eyes serious, yet full of trust. "I know there will be difficulties, but I want to stand by you to help protect this place and the people here." Ethan smiled softly, eyes brightening, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We'll do everything together. I trust you, and I also believe we will create a true home where everyone is safe." In that moment, the sunlight illuminated the farm, each ray igniting hope, warmth, and life. Clara felt clearly that her promise was more than words. It was a real commitment demonstrated through action and mutual trust. Annie and Sam ran to hug her, their innocent laughter and the joy in their eyes filling her heart with hope. She began participating in more detailed chores, sweeping the yard, organizing tools, caring for the animals. Ethan stayed nearby, occasionally offering guidance, but mostly letting her learn through experience so that her promise and commitment became part of her daily life. Clara realized that every action contributed to building a home, not just for herself, but for everyone she cared about. The group paused for a moment, looking out over the wide fields ahead, dawnlight glimmering on the melting snow, the rays filtering through the mist like a soft warmth enveloping them. Ethan looked at Clara, eyes calm, yet full of affection and trust. "We'll be all right, because we're together." Clara smiled, feeling the steadiness radiate from his words and gaze. She realized that commitment, trust, and action were stronger than any promise spoken with words alone. Every action she took on the farm, was proof of her promise of service, of the connection and trust growing within her. Annie and Sam ran around, helping with small tasks, laughter ringing out sunlight, illuminating their hair, creating a picture full of hope and warmth. Clara stood among them, her heart softening, sensing trust, love, and hope spreading. The dawn on the farm, golden light, gentle wind, and the children's laughter became a symbol of new beginnings, a promise of service, and the steady trust between Clara and Ethan. She realized this was where she truly belonged, a place she could stand firm, help build and protect a home of her own. Clara looked at Ethan, eyes determined, yet gentle. "I will stay. I will help. I will do everything to keep this home safe." Ethan responded, voice deep and decisive, "And I will protect you. Protect this little family, no matter what happens." In the dawn light, amidst the vast farm and warm cabin, that promise was more than words. It was a real commitment shown through action, trust, and spiritual connection between them. Clara felt that through this commitment, she had found a refuge, love, and a true home. Annie and Sam's laughter echoed the morning sunlight, shining on the faces of all four of them, creating a scene gentle, warm, and full of hope. Clara smiled, feeling the bond between herself, Ethan, and the two children, realizing that trust, commitment, and kindness had turned a cold winter into a new beginning, full of light and hope. Part 9. Acceptance. Returning to the cabin after a morning full of energy on the farm, the interior space glowed with the warm light of the crackling fireplace. Annie and Sam's laughter echoed through the room, mingling with the popping of the fire and the rustle of burning wood. Clara stood in the center of the cabin, looking at Ethan and the two children, realizing that this simple moment, firelight, laughter, and warmth, was where she truly felt a new family, where her heart was healing and happiness spread throughout her. She knelt beside Annie and Sam, her gaze gentle, smiling. "Are you hungry? I'll help with breakfast." The children laughed, eyes bright, as they looked at Clara. Annie ran to hug her. Sam held her hand, and in that moment Clara realized that a genuine connection had formed, surpassing the loneliness and loss of the past. Ethan stood nearby, his gaze calm yet warm, observing Clara's interactions with the children. He smiled lightly, knowing this moment was clear evidence of integration and acceptance. Clara began distributing bread, pouring tea for the children, and then sat with them by the fire. Ethan sat opposite, observing and occasionally guiding the children on safe eating practices, but mostly letting Clara interact directly with Annie and Sam. The combination of Clara's gentleness and Ethan's steadfast, protective presence created a balanced family scene where everyone felt love and safety. Little Annie looked at Clara, eyes bright, and asked Sister Clara, "Are we really a family?" Clara smiled softly, wrapping her arms around Annie and Sam. "We are a family. Yes, a family we choose, and we always protect each other." Ethan watched from the side gaze, steady yet warm. He knew that this integration was not just a fleeting feeling, but a lasting commitment, a place where each person could find safety, trust, and happiness. The firelight reflected in his eyes, highlighting his determination to protect and the tenderness he held for Clara and the children. They ate breakfast together, laughter mingling with small stories of recent days, snow play, and little dreams. Clara realized that these moments were a balm for the soul, for herself, for Ethan, and for Annie and Sam. Each laugh, glance, and gesture wove a warm family fabric, piecing together fragments of past loneliness and tragedy. Ethan stood pouring more tea for everyone, his gaze on the four of them gathered around the fire, feeling the harmony and peace radiate throughout the cabin. He spoke softly. "We'll care for this place together. This is our home, and everyone belongs here." Clara looked at Ethan, eyes shining with trust and gratitude. She realized that the hardships and challenges they had endured had led her to this moment, a moment where she truly felt a family, where she and her loved ones were safe and protected. Annie and Sam ran around, laughter echoing throughout the cabin, bringing warmth and pure joy. Clara smiled, embracing them, and for the first time in many months, felt complete happiness. They began cleaning up after breakfast together. Assigning small tasks, Clara helped wash cups. Ethan repaired a window fence. Annie swept the floor. Sam folded blankets. These simple tasks done together created a new family rhythm where each person had a role and was respected. No more loneliness, no more pressure, only connection and shared joy. Clara stood by the window, looking out at the fields, morning light filtering through the mist, casting a warm glow on the yard and farm. She realized that despite the harsh West, despite the looming snowstorms and challenges within this cabin, they had found warmth, happiness, and love, a true home. Ethan stepped beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder, voice low and warm. "We'll overcome every challenge together. This is our family, and everyone belongs here." Clara smiled, watching Annie and Sam run around, eyes shining with hope. She understood that this integration was not just temporary affection, but the beginning of a new home where everyone could be safe, loved, and accepted. Little Annie ran up to hug Clara. Sam held Ethan's hand, and in that moment, the cabin overflowed with laughter, light, and warmth. Clara felt clearly that this new family had formed not just by blood, but through love, trust, and mutual commitment to protect each other. They sat together by the fire, talking about the day's plans, chores on the farm, and each person's small dreams. Ethan and Clara shared guidance gently but firmly, instructing Annie and Sam. The cabin was filled with warmth, laughter, and the feeling of family hope and happiness spreading throughout. Clara looked at Ethan, eyes reflecting trust, gratitude, and tenderness. She understood that through all the challenges, tragedies, and anxieties, they had found a true family where she and the children were protected, loved, and where she could experience complete happiness. The morning light climbed higher, illuminating the cabin and the snow-covered farm, creating a perfect picture of their new family, warm and full of hope. Clara sat beside Ethan, holding his hand along with the two children, feeling harmony and peace radiating through her. Every laugh, glance, and gesture became proof of the love, connection, and happiness they had built together. By the fire, amidst laughter and dawnlight illuminating the snow-covered farm, Clara fully realized that a new family had been formed and that she had found a place to belong, a place where happiness, warmth, and hope would endure. Part 10. A New Beginning. The sunset bathed the vast prairie in red, the last rays of daylight filtering through the thin mist, creating a scene both majestic and gentle. A light breeze rustled through the grass, carrying the scent of damp earth, melting snow, and pine needles. Clara stood beside Ethan, her gaze following the landscape before her, her heart filled with peace and hope. The golden red sky, streaked with pale pink clouds, reflected warm light on her face, making her feel clearly that a new chapter of her life was beginning. Ethan stood beside Clara, holding her hand firmly, eyes fixed on the horizon, yet deep and full of emotion. The moment was silent, only the wind, the rustling grass, and their breaths filling the air, creating a gentle space where all past troubles and challenges seemed to vanish. Clara felt the steadiness of his hand, the safety and love spreading through her. Little Annie and Sam ran and played around them, their laughter mingling with the songs of birds and the breeze bringing life and warmth to the sunset scene. Clara smiled, her gaze soft on the children, realizing that her small family had truly formed a place where love, protection, and hope bound them together. Ethan leaned toward Clara, looking into her eyes, his voice deep and warm. "We've been through so much, but in the end, this is where we belong. Together." Clara felt the sincerity and determination in every word he spoke. She held his hand tightly, eyes shining with trust and love. The gentle breeze blew, scattering the thin clouds in the sky, revealing a bright space symbolizing a new beginning full of hope and happiness. The children ran toward the cabin, laughter ringing out, mingling with the sounds of hooves and rustling grass. Clara watched them, then turned to Ethan, realizing that together they had overcome blizzards, challenges, loss, and loneliness. Now they stood in the middle of the prairie sunset light, covering everything, giving a sense of safety, happiness, and complete love. Ethan gently pulled Clara closer, holding her hand tighter, his deep gaze conveying a message he would never let go. He would protect her and this little family no matter what happened. Clara felt the warmth of his hand, his steady breath, and the strength of his presence creating a sense of peace, trust, and love. She lifted her eyes to him, joy and happiness shining in them. "Together, we'll build this home, Ethan. I trust you." Ethan smiled, his gaze gentle and full of affection. He squeezed her hand, affirming that all hardships, trials, and past tragedies were behind them. Now, there was only hope, love, and a new beginning. Beside them, Annie and Sam ran hand in hand, laughing, creating a new rhythm of life. The rhythm of a family filled with joy and warmth. Clara watched the children, her gaze softening, realizing that love was not only between her and Ethan, but encompassed this entire little family. Ethan turned to the horizon where the sun had just set, painting the sky red. He took a deep breath, looking at Clara and the children, feeling the strength of love, hope, and his commitment to protect the family. He whispered, "We will never abandon each other. This is our family, and every challenge only makes us stronger." Clara felt the full weight of his words, her heart completely at ease. She held Ethan's hand tighter, eyes brimming with trust and love. The sunset light reflected on their faces, mirroring harmony, affection, and hope. This was the moment marking a new beginning, where tragedy, loneliness, and challenges were left behind, giving way to happiness, love, and family. The group stood in silence for a moment, breathing in the fresh prairie air, feeling the remaining warmth of the sunset, and hearing Annie and Sam's laughter. Clara realized that after everything, this family, Ethan herself, and the two children, had found each other, creating a solid, hopeful refuge in the harsh West. Ethan looked at Clara, eyes full of love, voice deep and warm. Together, we'll build a new life, a beginning we deserve. Clara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes, feeling complete love. Family and hope had found each other amidst the prairie, the sunset, and the warmth of human care. She held Ethan's hand, then wrapped her arms around Annie and Sam, forming a family circle, tender yet strong. The sunset closed that day, but the prairie, the light, the laughter, and the harmony of the four of them remained etched in their hearts, creating a new beginning full of hope, love, and warmth, opening a new chapter for the entire family. They stood there amidst the sunset and vast prairie, holding hands, looking forward. No more loneliness, no more tragedy, only love, trust, and a new beginning where everyone belonged to one another, and where family, even imperfect, was a place of safety, love, and lasting hope. Final piece. Inside the wooden cabin, the crackling fire cast warm rays of light dancing across the walls and ceiling. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the forest and fields in white. But inside the cabin, the atmosphere was entirely different, warm, peaceful, and filled with a sense of safety. Clara sat beside Ethan on the long chair, her hand resting in his eyes, gently watching the fire, feeling its warmth spread through her body. Her heart was lighter, more peaceful than ever. Annie and Sam lay by the fire, dozing after a long day of playing in the fields. Their steady breathing, mingled with the crackle of the fire, created a gentle symphony emphasizing the peace and warmth of the home they had built together. Clara leaned slightly against Ethan's shoulder, sensing the security and protection he provided. In this moment, there was no tension, no worry or fear, only love, gentleness, and serenity. Ethan looked at Clara, his gaze deep yet full of love. He smiled softly, placing his hand over hers. At last, we found where we belong. Clara responded, a gentle smile on her lips. Yes, a place where we are all safe, where love and kindness are the only shelter. The quiet moment lingered firelight, reflecting on their faces, creating a scene both warm and sacred. Every breath, every heartbeat aligned, giving the sense that all past tragedies and hardships had fallen behind, leaving space for peace and contentment. Clara closed her eyes slightly, feeling the warmth from Ethan and the fire, sensing an absolute safety she had never known before. Outside the cabin, snow continued to fall, but the light from within and the warmth of the fire formed a protective barrier separating them from the cold and harshness of the west. Clara felt reassured, knowing that whatever challenges arose, they would stand together. Annie and Sam slept soundly by the fire, a symbol of complete safety and happiness. Ethan gently placed his hand on Clara's shoulder, brushing her hair back, his gaze tender and full of commitment. He knew no words were necessary. In this moment, they understood each other, feeling that love, trust, and kindness had become their sole shelter in the unforgiving West. Clara smiled softly, closing her eyes and breathing deeply. She felt each breath, each heartbeat, knowing that all past pain, loneliness, and trials had been healed within this small family home. The crackling fire, the pops of the flames, and the children's steady breathing created a symphony of peace and happiness. Ethan leaned in, gently embracing Clara, feeling warmth spread, forming a protective and loving circle. Clara responded, holding him back, hearts beating together, sharing in the ultimate comfort and serenity. All hardships, tragedies, and anxieties gave way to love, and kindness, the only shelter in the harsh West. The outside world faded before the warmth and happiness inside the cabin. Clara looked out the window, watching snow lightly fall on the pine trees, their long shadows stretching across the white ground, creating a quiet, peaceful scene. She realized that no matter how harsh the world might be, love and kindness would always be a refuge, a place to find happiness and peace. Annie and Sam stirred, giggling as they woke, eyes shining as they looked at the two adults by the fire. Clara smiled, exchanging a loving glance with Ethan. They knew that through blizzards and trials, they had found each other, found a home, and discovered complete peace. Ethan squeezed Clara's hand once more, his gaze gentle but firm. Everything's past now. We have each other, and that's all that matters. Clara nodded, feeling every warmth, every heartbeat, knowing that in the harsh West, love and kindness were the only shelter, and she was fortunate to have found it with Ethan, Annie, and Sam. In the final moment before night fell, the cabin glowed with firelight. Snow blanketed the outside world, and everything was calm. Clara and Ethan sat together, hands clasped, feeling warmth, peace, and completeness. Annie and Sam slept peacefully nearby, a picture of a small, happy family, making all previous hardships feel distant and forgotten. In the harsh West, amidst blizzards, trials, and loneliness, love and kindness are the only shelter. Only empathy, protection, and sincere affection can bring lasting peace, hope, and complete happiness. Leave a comment and rate it from 0 to 10. Subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next ride.